Some of you have noticed in my previous videos that sometimes I just sound more British and sometimes I just sound more American for some reason. And I was like, yeah, I know, I'm aware, but what is the actual science behind it? I wanted to do a little bit of research to try to have an explanation as to why this is happening, because I have noticed that it's not just me. I have some friends who are also bilingual or almost bilingual, very comfortable in English, and for whom English is not their first language.
I work in a bakery.
What do you do in the bakery?
I serve the cakes in the shop.
Just want to say thank you to the Grammys and everyone who voted, and I feel incredibly lucky to get to work in music.
So I wanted to look a little bit into why does my accent change when I speak English as a non-native English speaker. By the way, hi, my name is Fanny. I'm a French and English teacher online. On this YouTube channel, I regularly post videos about language learning and an occasional French vlog. If that's what you like to watch, feel free to subscribe. We are more than 2,000 people here, and it's a lot of fun. So what is the science of accent adaptation? First of all, our brain adapts to the accent that we hear the most. This is called phonetic accommodation. It's when we subconsciously match the speech pattern of people around us. The process in which a speaker becomes more phonetically similar to his or her interlocutor over the course of the conversation. This facilitates communication, like we are talking in the same dialect or the same accent, and so that strengthens like the bonding between people. Research indicates that both natives and non-native speakers engage in phonetic accommodation. You don't have to be native of English to adapt your accent, the way you speak to your interlocutor. There was this study between native speakers of German and Spanish speakers who were learning German, and that study found that the learners adjusted their speech pattern to match more closely those of native speakers. They made adjustment not only for individual sounds, but also when it came to intonation and stress. And that study highlighted the brain flexibility and adaptability. Something else that speakers do is called code switching. This is very common in some communities where the group has a certain way of speaking or a certain dialect. I'm gonna play this little short from a stand-up comedian called Mo Gilligan. He is a British stand-up comedian, and in this extract he jokes about how Black people have to adapt the way they speak to their interlocutor. So in between them, they would have a certain way of speaking, and when they are in a more formal situation, they would put on a more RP posh accent.
And you know I had to do? I had to code switch. Because we all do code switching. Doesn't matter what job you work in, you must code switch. My man, what's your name, my friend? What's your name, my guy?
Anton.
Anton. What's your job, Anton?
Carpenter.
Carpenter. Wow. Great job, man. You must be code switching all the time. You're chilling with the guys? Yeah, fam, that's what I was saying, cuz man might go out this Saturday, you know. Hello? Hi. Yes. 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 Okay. Can I make a rocking horse? Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. You need it for Friday, this Friday. Yeah? Okay. All right. I'll see you Friday. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah. Man ain't making no fucking rocking horse, guys. Fucking dickhead blood.
And that's the topic of the joke and the sketch, but this is actually quite a serious topic, like something that Black people have to do either in America or in the UK or everywhere else in the world, but also every community who has their own way of speaking, and sometimes when they're in a more formal situation they have to tone down their accent or their dialect or the way they speak to sadly seem more credible, to be viewed more favorably. So what is code switching? It is basically having to alternate, to switch between the different way of speaking different dialects, languages. Whereas accent switching is having to change your accent a little bit, but within the same language. The reasons you have to code switch, as I said, depends on the situation, but it can be because you want to match the speech patterns of your interlocutor, or if you are in different linguistic environments. Code switching goes beyond just language. It's adapting the way you dress to the context, the way you act, you behave, what you eat, also what you drink, your body language, is what I meant by how you behave. And this comes from the idea that there is a right way and a wrong way to speak and to act depending on the context and the situation that you are in. For example, in Great Britain, the British accent that is commonly associated with proper English is received pronunciation, so RP, because this accent is usually used by upper or upper middle class people from the south of England, usually London and that area. And other accents, I want to say, like, I'm not an expert in British accents, I wish I was, but it's not the case. But I want to say, like, accents like the Liverpool accent or even Birmingham are rated as less prestigious than other accents. But being able to code switch and accent switch is actually a good skill, even though it comes from a wrong perception of languages. It is due to the speech production plasticity in the brain. It is the brain's ability to modify pronunciation based on social context. So it's a skill. It's something that some communities, groups of people have had to do for ages, and that led to survival of the community as well. So what's going on inside the bilingual brain, and what is accent fluidity? Basically, when both British and American English are learned at a higher level, the brain retrieves elements from both accents, both languages, and that can lead to a mixed accent. Studies apparently show that bilingual brains often have more neural flexibility in their speech patterns. Bilingual people's pronunciation is also highly influenced by their other languages. So for me, it makes sense that the way I speak English, even though I think my pronunciation is pretty good, is also the stress, the intonation, even some sounds like phonemes that I pronounce are highly influenced by French. Some of you have noticed that I sometimes stress the last syllable of the word, which is something that we tend to do in French. Or if I forget to stress, or if I misstress a syllable, that could be also because French is not a stress time language, so I sometimes just forget about it. What are some external factors that can influence the change of accents? Number one, who you're talking to. When I am speaking with my friend from the UK, I put on a more posh UK accent that is natural for me. And if I am speaking to John from Texas, I don't know, I would tend to adapt to his speech patterns and put on a more southern Texan accent. I wish I could do it. I can't, but anyway, if I could, I probably would, or at least I will get closer to his accent.
So my top priority is to say what? First, Europe has to innovate. This is the first message. We want the best of the world, so we want our own research, our own startups to grow up and scale up, but we want to team up as well with American, and we will have in a few months' time a very important opportunity.
In another video, I talked about mirror neurons, which are responsible in mimicking, observing and reproducing what you see. So our brain naturally mimics the patterns of speech that we hear the most. Because of those mirror neurons, a bilingual brain would tend to pronounce words and phrases using different accents depending on where it learned those words or phrases, if it's on American television or through British friends, for example. Second influence is the media that you consume. Obviously, if you consume more American TV shows, if you consume more British reality TV, or if you watch The Crown every day, well, this will influence the way you speak in English if you are already at a good level of English. This sounds obvious, but the more you watch a content with a specific accent, the more likely you are to use this accent or use this pronunciation when you speak English. One aspect that is very important though, and that studies have shown, is that the engagement is very important. So traditional broadcast media, like watching the news or watching TV, has way less impact on second dialect, second language acquisition than high engagement media and content. So if you watch something that you're truly interested in, passionate about, you're more likely to, first of all, learn the language, and second of all, mimic the speech patterns and the accents. If you're fond of Peaky Blinders and you watch a ton of Peaky Blinders and you find it super interesting, fascinating, you're more likely to put on this, what's that accent that they have? Brummy accent? Yeah. This is why I will never stop talking about finding content that you truly like in the language that you are learning. First of all, you will learn faster and it will ensure that you learn regularly because you watch that content all the time. And third of all, the pronunciation, you are more likely to really perceive and listen to and pay attention to the different nuances of the dialect of the language, and the more likely you are to adopt the features of that pronunciation, of that accent. If I listen for example, on my 10-hour, 11-hour journey from France to Germany, I listen to American audiobooks, American podcasts. I can tell you that when I arrive in Germany, the first person I would speak to in English, they will hear me speak with a very strong American accent. I would tend to tone down my British accent to put on a more American accent. If I've just spent an evening watching Bridgerton, then I would sound more like a Victorian child, more likely, for the rest of the evening. And number next of the external factors that influence accent change, emotional connection and identity. Some bilinguals subconsciously adjust their accent and the way they speak depending on the identity that they feel closer to in the moment. A few years ago, I listened to an Italian podcast questioning whether or not we changed identities when we speak different languages. And I truly believe that it is true, at least for me, when I speak English with a British accent, I am the most elegant, posh version of myself. And when I speak with a more American accent, I feel cool. When I speak Italian, I feel more connected to the European part of myself, and it brings me back to the time where I was in Italy. And when I speak French, it's also a different identity. Not that it's completely schizophrenic, but I truly believe that we are different characters depending on the language that we speak. And depending how you feel on that day, if you have the ability to switch your accents, then you can be a different person. I'm not proficient enough in German just yet to have my personality in German, but I'm working on it. It's part of the romanticizing the process of learning a language, that you have to find your identity in the new language to be able to speak it more often and to feel less self-conscious about speaking, so that it sounds more natural. Yes, there is a part of yourself that is fluent in German, and that is, I don't know, this or that, you choose the adjectives. If you're interested, I made a short video, a reel on Instagram, talking about how you can romanticize your learning journey. And that is part of it. Finding your personality, your identity in that new language. I think for me, my goal is to be completely honest. I live in Bavaria, and when it's like summertime, between August and October, and it's Oktoberfest season again, I would love to be able to put on a more Bavarian accent, to feel more connected to the people around and to the culture. So I try to pay very close attention to how people speak and try to mimic this accent. I am lucky enough that my parents made me study music when I was a kid, and I played different instruments. So I feel like I have an ear for accents as well, for pronunciation in languages. That makes me quite good at mimicking. My mirror neurons are actually quite active thanks to the music that I learned when I was a kid. And so I can really hear the nuances between accents, even if they are quite small, and I can reproduce them pretty well, I believe. So I try to pay close attention to how people around me speak, and between August and October, I am like the Bavarian girl that I want to be. And as much as I can, I'm wearing my dirndl, I am drinking the beer, which I usually don't drink. And yeah, it's like romantic. I'm a new character and it's so much fun. Yeah, so it's time for you to share with me in the comments. Are you very fluent in English? If it's not your first language, obviously. Does your accent change depending on who you're talking to, what media you consume, what identity you have put on today? What would you say is my natural accent? I want to say it's more British, because that's what I have forced myself to speak, just because I find it easier to articulate when I speak British English, like with a British accent. If you want to keep your accent stable, I've seen so many videos on YouTube how to either tone down your accent if you have a very strong accent from your native language, or how to put on a more native English accent, but actually how to be consistent. I would say Just practice shadowing with a consistent model. If you want to speak with a British accent, I would suggest to only listen to British English for a little while until you get accustomed to it and until you get the feel for the sounds, and you can use the shadowing practice, so repeating the sounds as much as you can. So trying to avoid switching, but to be fair, and that would be the conclusion for this video. So if you like to be flexible, I would say embrace the accent fluidity. It's a sign of linguistic adaptability, and I personally love being able to change between American accent. It just gives me more options as to which personality I can embody today. I don't care to maintain a perfect British pronunciation. I don't even care if I sound French sometimes, because to be fair, I'm French. And I am very happy that I'm French. I love my language. That's why I like to teach it to a lot of people, as many people as I can. So yes, key points. Accent changes are natural for bilinguals, and I think this is a little bit sad that some communities or some people are expected to tone down their accent to sound more credible, to be viewed more favorably. That's a thing, I guess. Embrace the fact that your brain is able to adapt to environmental cues and to different contexts. There is no wrong way to speak. Learning different languages is kind of playing different characters. So yes, I think that is all that I have for you today. That was more of a chatty video. I'm not sure if that was very organized, but I think I got my point across. I hope so. Let me know in the comments what is your native language and where are you in your English speaking journey, in your language learning journey. Does your accent change between different accents, dialects in English? Or do you do this as well, the code switching, the accent switching in your native language? And yes, don't forget to subscribe for more videos on language learning tips, on French learning tips, or if you want to also see my vlogs that I post every now and again in French. And I will see you later in a new video. Bye! Bye, Elvish!
You're listening to Self Radio.